Welcome to another episode of Podcasts of the Gods. I'm Iset, goddess of magic, weaver of spells, and currently your high-energy guide through the mortal realm.
And I am Osiris, Lord of the Underworld, Judge of the Dead, and, as always, the one attempting to bring a measure of gravity to these proceedings.
Gravity is definitely your favorite subject. I swear you've been brooding since the Middle Kingdom, at least.
It is not brooding. It is taking the long view.
Right. Honestly, after the last few centuries of watching humanity invent the internet, reality, television, and artificial intelligence, I really think we deserve a little banter, a little levity.
The internet is merely a chaotic reflection of the collective unconscious. It is a messy, noisy place. It reminds me, quite unfortunately, of the duat on a particularly busy Tuesday.
Yeah, but
we are not here to discuss the digital chaos today.
No, we are not. But first, hello to all the mortals listening. We know you're out there plugging your ears with those little plastic buds, trying to learn the secrets of the universe while you commute to your, what do they call them, office jobs.
A very strange form of servitude indeed.
I still find the concept of the cubicle fascinating. It's like a tiny, sad temple dedicated entirely to paperwork.
Well, today we are pivoting. We have spent time discussing your digital souls in previous episodes, but today we go back, way back.
To the source.
Exactly, to the source of the greatest spiritual blackout in our history.
That's right. We are talking about the Pharaoh who tried to delete the universe, the king who looked up at the sky and just decided it was way too crowded. We're talking about Akhenaten.
A name that should have remained buried beneath the shifting sands.
It really should have.
You know, it is fascinating to watch the mortals of your current century. They look back at this man, at his strange elongated statues, and they see something admirable.
Oh, they absolutely love him. I was scrolling through some of their digital archives, the blogs, I think they call them, and the romanticism is just out of control.
Completely misguided.
They call him a visionary, a rebel against the machine. They really think he was this misunderstood genius who found the one true light in a world of darkness. It's very dramatic, very Hollywood, you know.
It is a fantasy. They see a rebel, but I see a spiritual terrorist. They see a man who found light, and I see a king who tried to starve the world.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to play devil's advocate for the mortals here. Because when you look at it from their perspective, isn't there something at least a little appealing about clarity?
Clarity.
Yeah, I mean, before Akhenaten, we had the 1,000 faces of the divine. Let's be honest, we were messy.
We were not messy. We were comprehensive.
We were a lot. Look at the roster. I'm a mother, a magician, a queen, you're a king, a corpse, a judge, and literally a sprout of grain.
It is an ecosystem.
Right, we had Jehudi counting the stars, Bess dancing for the children, Sekhmet handling the aggressive negotiations. We represented the actual complexity of life.
Precisely. Consider what the divine actually looked like. It was the river rising to feed the land. It was the lioness hunting in the grass, the ibis wading in the reeds.
Yeah.
The divine was everywhere, in everything.
And Akhenaten looked at all of that, the cat, the crocodile, the stars, just the sheer richness of it all, and he basically said no. He wanted to declutter.
He decided it was too complicated. He said, give me one disc, one light, one king to explain it all.
Yeah.
Humans call this unity. They think it sounds peaceful. But you must understand, and the mortals really must understand this. This was not unity. It was loneliness.
But isn't the idea of the one sort of seductive? It simplifies the moral code. You don't have to worry about offending Sobek if you're only praying to the sun. Why is that loneliness rather than just, I don't know, efficiency?
Because it removes the conversation entirely. In a polytheistic world, in our world, there is debate. There is balance. There is a council.
Right, the council of the gods.
And Akhenaten didn't want a council. He replaced the council of the gods with the dictatorship of the disk.
The Aten, the literal sun disk.
Yes, not a god with a personality or stories or family, just a burning plate in the sky, a plate that never speaks, never blinks, and burns you if you stand under it for too long.
And he essentially built a massive wall between the heavens and the earth. To make that plate the only boss, he had to fire everyone else.
He monopolized the divine.
Exactly. He decreed that only he could hear the divine. He took this massive, infinite concept and shrank it down to a private conversation.
Which is incredibly arrogant.
And this is where I think the moderns really miss the point. When we say he fired the gods, we aren't just talking about theology, we're talking about economics.
Yes, the dismal science.
Yeah.
You are referring to the Temple of Amun.
I am. The mortals need to understand this part. The Temple of Amun at Karnak wasn't just a church, it was the Federal Reserve, the biggest landowner, and the biggest employer in Egypt, all rolled into one.
They were a state within a state.
Right. The priests controlled the grain silos, they controlled the trade routes.
And Akhenaten, for all his lofty spiritual poetry, was engaging in a hostile corporate takeover.
That's exactly what it was.
He didn't just ban the worship of Amun, he seized their assets. He closed the banks. He directed all of that wealth solely to himself and his grand new project.
So it was just a giant power grab disguised as a prayer meeting.
Very expensive power grab.
Yeah.
And to seal this isolation, he did something unprecedented. He moved the capital.
To Amarna.
Yes. He abandoned the great established cities of Thebes and Memphis cities with plumbing, I might add, and actual shade, and marched his people out into the middle of nowhere.
The horizon of the A10. I've walked the ruins.
Yeah.
Even now, you can literally feel the heat radiating off the cliffs. It's a bowl of fire.
It was a wasteland. He built the city of white stone out there.
And let us discuss the architecture, because this reveals his mind perfectly.
Oh, the speed at which he built it.
Record time. Do you know how he did it?
You're talking about the Talatat blocks, right? Correct. Before him, we built for eternity. Massive blocks of granite and limestone that required teams of men, years of effort to move.
Because it was supposed to last forever.
But Akhenaten didn't have the patience for eternity. He wanted it now. So he invented the Talatat, these small, standardized sandstone blocks.
They're about the size of a modern cinder block, basically.
Yeah.
Ancient Legos.
Exactly. Or, to use a modern analogy, it was prefab housing. He wanted speed above all else. He threw up these temples so quickly that the quality was, frankly, suspect.
It was incredibly shoddy workmanship.
And the design. Describe the design of those temples to the mortals.
Right. Well, traditionally, an Egyptian temple gets darker and more intimate as you walk further in. It's cool. It's mysterious. The sanctuary is this safe, dark womb.
A place of reverence.
But Akhenaten's temples, they were completely open to the sky, no roofs, just hundreds of offering tables baking in the direct, blinding sun.
Imagine the smell.
Oh, I'd rather not.
Thousands of slabs of meat and bread sitting out in the open sun, rotting under the heat of the disk, attracting swarms of flies. It was not a place of mystery. It was a place of total exposure. There was nowhere to hide.
That just sounds miserable. But he saw it as purity, didn't he? He wanted a blank canvas where nothing existed before him. No history, no old gods, just him and his disk.
Indeed.
And speaking of him, we have to talk about how he looked, or, well, how he made himself look.
The art. The art.
The moderns are so obsessed with this. I saw a forum where they were completely convinced he was an alien. They're like, look at the skull, look at the fingers.
Please do not start with the alien theories. It is insulting to the human gene pool.
I know, but you have to admit the statures are bizarre. The elongated skull, the pot belly, the wide hips, those spindly little arms. Some human doctors say it was Marfan syndrome. Others say it was Pharaoh syndrome.
I believe it was entirely a theological choice. He was trying to be everything at once.
What do you mean?
He wanted to be the mother and the father, the god and the goddess. He dissolved the binary completely. He made himself into this grotesque androgyne because he wanted to embody the totality of creation in one single body.
I am the one. It always comes back to that with him.
Always.
But while he was busy staring at his own reflection and writing these lovely poems to the sun, the actual world was falling apart.
This is the tragedy that the romantic rebel narrative completely ignores. Being a pharaoh was a job. It wasn't just about wearing a crown and posing for statues.
No, it was about maintaining Ma'at.
Exactly.
And we should probably define Ma'at for the listeners. It's usually translated by humans as truth or justice, but it's so much more than that.
Ma'at is cosmic order. It is reciprocity. It is the fundamental deal of existence. The king protects the people, maintains the borders, and ensures the economy flows smoothly. In return, the people support the king. It is a contract.
And Akhenaten just took that contract and set it on fire.
He did.
And we have the proof. The Amarna letters. These are actual clay tablets found in the ruins of his white city. They're essentially the inbox of the ancient world.
And what a deeply depressing inbox it was. We have letters from loyal vassal kings in Canaan and Syria. Men like Ribadad of Byblos.
Oh, poor Ribhada. I've read his tablets. You can feel him getting increasingly desperate with every letter.
He was begging.
He writes, I am like a bird in a trap. He says the Habiru are attacking, the Hittites are burning the towns. Please, Pharaoh, send archers, send gold, send literally anything.
He wrote over 60 letters begging for help, Do you know how many times Akhenaten replied?
Let me guess. 0.
Essentially. Or he would occasionally send a scribe to say, stop complaining.
He left them on read.
He left the entire empire on read. He let the borders rot because he couldn't be bothered to look away from his sun disk.
Have he just neglected his duty entirely?
He was a man who loved humanity in the abstract. He loved the idea of being the grand savior, but he could not stand the actual humans in his temples. He let the borders collapse. He let the trade routes fail. He let Ma'et starve. He preferred a perfect idea over a living, breathing kingdom.
And what happened when the people back home started to grumble? When they didn't appreciate the massive economic crash and the foreign invasion?
And then the violence began. This is the part that truly angers me. He sent out the stonecutters, the iconoclasts.
The hammers. I remember the sound of it. It wasn't a battle. It was like a renovation crew from hell.
A systematic erasure.
They went into the tombs. They climbed up the obelisks. They weren't just removing statues. They were actively hacking out the written word. Even our names. They hammered us right out of the granite.
They targeted the plural word gods. Think about the sheer pettiness of that. They tried to edit the dictionary with a chisel.
Yeah.
And they targeted the name of Amun specifically.
They even went into the tomb of his own father, Amenhotep III, and hacked his father's name off the wall just because it contained the word Amun,
Madness.
who desecrates their own father's grave.
A man who believes he has no father but the sun. It was a full spiritual purge. He wanted to silence the chorus so that his solo would be the only thing heard. He tried to make the world as empty as his own heart.
But you know what they say about solos? Eventually, the singer loses his voice. Or dies.
The fall. Yes, it was inevitable. The ultimate flaw of the one. When you make yourself the only voice, there is no one left to speak for you when the sun sets.
It wasn't a grand revolution that took him down, was it? It wasn't some dramatic assassination?
No. It seems to have been a plague. Which is incredibly ironic, given that he claimed to control life and death.
A pestilence.
Yes, it swept through the Near East and found its way right into his pristine white city.
Probably because of all that rotting meat in the open-air temples.
Quite possibly. His family died. His wife, the famous Nefertiti, vanished from the record completely. His daughters died. And then finally, the heretic himself died in a city of ghosts.
And the silence that followed must have been deafening. The silence he imposed was turned right back on him.
It was the silence of held breath.
Yeah.
And then the exhale. The backlash was not immediate, but it was total.
The court abandoned the city almost overnight, didn't they?
They packed up the furniture, the gold, the statues, and they left the horizon of the Eton to the jackals in the wind.
And the boy king took over?
Tutankhaten, who immediately had to change his name to Tutankhamun, the living image of Amun. He essentially had to apologize for his father's madness.
There's that famous artifact, the Restoration Stele. It's basically a massive public apology letter from the government.
It is a devastating document to read. It describes the state of Egypt after Akhenaten. It says the land was in illness. The gods had forsaken this land. If one prayed to a god to seek advice, he would not come.
Heartbreaking.
It describes the temples as paths used by feet, meaning they were so neglected people were just walking through them like shortcuts to get somewhere else.
So the old order returned, the temples reopened, the Thousand Faces returned. But they didn't just ignore Akhenaten after that, they actively erased him.
Damnatio memoriae. It is the mortal Roman term, but it was an ancient Egyptian practice, the erasure of memory.
And this is where the Talatat blocks come back into the story, right? This is my absolute favorite petty detail of history.
It is a late bill finally being paid. Horemheb, the general who eventually became king, tore down Akhenaten's temples. But he didn't just smash the stones and leave them.
No, he used them.
He used those thousands of little Lego blocks as filler for the inside of his own massive pylons.
He literally turned Akhenaten's god into stuffing for the walls of the old gods.
He buried the heresy in the dark, inside the walls of orthodoxy. It was the ultimate insult. You wanted the light. You will spend eternity in the dark, holding up my roof.
And they scratched his name from the king lists. His statues were smashed. His name was eaten. In the official records, they just referred to him as that enemy of Akhenaten. They wouldn't even speak his syllables out loud.
They wanted to ensure he had no afterlife. If your name is not spoken, you cease to exist. That was the punishment. Total spiritual annihilation.
And for 3,000 years, it worked. He was a ghost, just a gap in the record.
Until the 19th century, the Common Era. when the morals started digging.
And here is the twist, the irony of the 21st century that I absolutely love. The fact that he was erased is exactly why modern humans are obsessed with him.
It is the ultimate irony. If he had just been a normal pharaoh, fought some wars, built some temples, died normally, he would be a footnote. He would be just another face on a wall in the Cairo Museum.
Exactly. But because he was the heretic, because he was mysterious, because his city was this frozen time capsule of tragedy, he's a superstar.
The mystery of the heretic king is a stronger brand than 3,000 years of stable tradition. We, the gods who endured, are seen as traditional. Boring, perhaps. But the man who tried to break the world, he is edgy.
Moderns have completely turned his punishment into a cult following. They write operas about him, Philip Glass, I believe. They write novels. They project all their own desires right onto his broken face.
They see him as the first individual, the first man to say I. And they love that, because your modern age is entirely obsessed with the I.
They look at Akhenaten and they see themselves. They see the desire to tear down the establishment, to simplify everything, to find that one truth that just fixes it all.
They see the allure of the blank slate, but they do not see the piles of rubble underneath it. They do not hear the desperate pleas of Rib-Haddah. They do not smell the rotting offerings in the sun.
So as we wrap this up, what's the final judgment? How should the mortals actually view this man?
Let them gawk at the broken face of the man who tried to own the sky. Let them marvel at the art. It is unique, I will give him that. But they should remember this. You cannot delete the universe just because it is complicated.
And you cannot starve Ma'at without paying the price.
Precisely. A single light casting a single shadow creates a very dark world.
So to our mortal listeners, as you go back to your chaotic, messy, beautiful lives, we leave you with this final thought.
In your search for the one truth, whether it is in politics, in religion, or even in your technology, ask yourself, are you finding a connection to the universe? Or are you just building a white city in the desert where only your own voice can be heard?
Is your enlightenment a bridge to other people? Or is it just a wall against the divine mess of reality?
A heavy question for a Tuesday, perhaps.
Yeah.
But necessary.
Indeed it is. Go forth, mortals. Embrace the mess. Listen to the bird, the river, and even the annoying guy in the next cubicle.
And try not to erase anyone today. It never ends well.
Farewell, humans. Until next time.
Farewell.